Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. If everyone can get seated, thank you so much for joining us for breakfast and for the sessions this morning. Excited to have you all, and I'm incredibly excited to introduce our next couple of panelists. Thank you to Amazon for being here with us today. It is my honor to introduce Modupe, Global Head of Worldwide Amazon Stores, DE&I, and Latasha, Global Head of DE&I and Accessibility, Amazon Studios, Prime Video, MGM, and Freevee. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for the one. Good morning. Good
With
morning.
Some energy this morning.
Yes.
We know it's early, but thank you all so much for joining us for Fueling Customer Obsession at the intersection of innovation and DEI. And let's hope that these tarps are going to hang in there with us today. I'm Modupe Congleton, Global Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Worldwide Amazon Stores. And I know many of you may hear Amazon Stores and instantly assume it's all the storefronts that you see. Well, Amazon Stores is the entity of Amazon that is roughly $400+ billion. All the brands that you're familiar with, from Whole Foods to Amazon.com, Amazon Fresh, luxury stores, fashion, etc. So the next time you all see a Whole Foods, think to yourself, oh, that's what Modupe was talking about. So I am excited to be here with my partner in progress.
Hey, girl, hey.
Hey. We're determined to have a podcast, Gary, just so you know.
Listen, and we know, I thought of a name of it last night. It's like Two Balls and a Chain.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
We need to dive into that a little
Yeah,
bit.
we're going to help all the married women or aspiring to be married women out. But I'm Latasha Gillespie, and I am the head of Global Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Accessibility for customers and content for Amazon Studios, Prime Video, MGM, and Freevee. And so my sister Modupe, while she works on the people experience side of how our internal customers experience Amazon and develop technology, I work on the side where we are making sure that we are producing content for customers that is globally inclusive, that is representative in front of the camera, behind the camera, above the line, below the line, and does not perpetuate harmful stereotypes and tropes. And then the most probably important part of the work I do is we look at our own internal systems and try to understand where we have gatekeepers or artificial barriers that need to be dismantled and rebuilt with equity. And so part of the work that I do there is like the Howard Entertainment Program, where we're trying to bring in the next generation of studio executives that sit in seats like mine so that when people come in, we know we have amazing creators out there, black and brown creators, but oftentimes when they come into a studio, there's no one at the table that looks like them. So we got to fix that.
And I think what you just also made me think about is the importance of what Adrian has built here. Right? And we don't have to go far. We know that we exist, but we have to be intentional about creating spaces so that everyone knows where we are and where to find us. So I want to say thank you to you, Adrian, for what you're building and allowing us to be here with you.
Yes.
So
we have to make Adrian an unofficial or an official extension of our Black Girl Mafia.
Yes, yes.
So Modupe and I are like two representatives of that, but all across Amazon. We have, especially in the last few years, an amazing cohort of black women in senior level executive positions that are doing amazing work. And even though we're not in the same functions, the same businesses, we have a bat phone to each other.
We do.
That we call for help or to offer help.
We call for help, and in many cases, we may not even see or talk to each other regularly. But when we do finally see each other, it's, I got you.
Yeah.
And so we just recently, well, about a year ago, had a great example of what we like to call this Black Girl Mafia experience. Last year, we had the honor of building Amazon's first ever Black Women's Leadership Conference for 300 plus Black women in Seattle. And what is even more powerful about that experience is we had Black agencies, Black contractors, vendors, artists, from end to end, it was for us, by us.
Yeah.
And so even still to this day, I was talking to a young lady last night who said that was one of my best experiences I've ever had at Amazon.
Yeah.
And we had the honor of being a part of that legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Adrienne, welcome to the Black Girl Mafia.
Awesome. So as we are all clear, there is, the value add of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. But we also know that we're in a space where maybe that window, or we're hearing, sometimes it feels like the window is closing. And so how do we pivot? How do we ensure that not only do we protect the work, but that we continue to elevate and amplify the voices and experiences of all who are needing access to opportunity, whether it's through funding, et cetera. But how do we continue to double down on making sure we protect the intentionality behind diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah. And I think intentionality is the word. It's like, why would, we could be at a number of places having this conversation, but it was important to do it here.
Yeah.
To amplify the work that other Black people are doing, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you sit at a company like Amazon, right, who could pretty much do anything at once. But I think the thing that we have understood is our job is not to come in and take things over. It's to come in and figure out how we build with and amplify the work that other people have already started and are doing it, and use the power of Amazon to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to explore this a bit deeper when we get into our conversations with Cavill and Gary.
With the fellas.
A bit more with the fellas, right? We're going to balance it out a bit. But, when I think about diversity or DEI, DEIB, or DEIA, whichever way you want to call it, the important thing is that the conversations are happening.
Yeah.
The investment is made. The bodies of work are continuing to move forward. But when I think about, some opportunities for companies as we know it, we often over-rotate on representation.
Yep.
But representation through the lens of hiring.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for us to have the conversation on how we're focused on representation, not only behind the scenes, behind the camera, in front of the camera, but we know that it is a catalyst for driving innovation and for the customer obsession, which we all know as a leadership principle at Amazon.
Yeah. So, and that's, listen, okay, all of us work for organizations that have some kind of values or missions or leadership principles, as we call them. What all of us need to understand is how we weaponize those values, those leadership principles in the name of good, right? So at Amazon, we got 16 leadership principles. We like to pretend like they're all equal. 15 of them are, but there's one that's not. And that's customer obsession. That leaders start with the customer and work backwards, that we seek to earn and keep customer trust. And so when we're talking about this DEIA work, we're not talking about it from a moral aspect or a right thing to do, because depending on who you are, you might not believe that. But we talk about it from an aspect of how are you equitably obsessing over customers?
Yes.
And so, my tip to, or just nugget to anybody out there who's trying to figure out how do you get your organization to really latch on to this work is you got to build it into the DNA of who you are.
Yep.
And so you got to figure out what's so salient in your company that everybody knows it, from the custodian to the CEO, and build your strategy around that. And for us, it's customer obsession.
Absolutely. So I'm just to ask you all a quick question. How many of you have experienced, whether it's a marketing campaign or something that you saw that actually drove you to, whether it's click to buy, or you were so excited because you saw yourself represented in that product? Have any of you ever had that experience? Exactly. Nothing makes me happier than to see makeup. I'll just use makeup, for example, or beauty products. And they have someone represented that has my skin complexion in that commercial. I'm compelled to buy that product because I feel like it's speaking to me and my needs. And so, what about you, Latasha?
Absolutely. I mean, Fenty shut the game down.
Right? Oh, 100%.
And so, and I'm not just saying that because her fashion show has been on Amazon Prime Video for the last 3 years. but really it did, because it was so inclusive of not just skin tones, body types, abilities, sexual orientation, gender expression. Like, everyone saw themselves in that campaign.
And the products are good, too, just so you know.
That helps.
So shout out to Rihanna. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to take a look at an example of an Amazon commercial that we truly believe was inclusive and extremely intentional. So let's roll the video.
The star of the winter show is...
Good evening. All schools across the country will close by the end of the week until further notice as coronavirus reached out.
Listen, it's too early in the morning. You got me up here
I know,
crying.
I know.
My mascara running already. It's too early for
I'm
this.
telling you, I love it when I see the men with a tear in the eye. Do you see?
Yes.
Let me just let's just take a minute. Let's just take a minute. Look at that.
I
Yeah.
love this.
See?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
here's something interesting is that video was directed by Melina Katsoukas. Am I saying Matsoukas? I
Melina
apologize for
Matsoukas.
saying her name incorrectly. Black woman, she understands our experience. She can connect to the importance of being seen, being heard on the screen. I had the opportunity of showing this video at the end of a marketing sales kickoff, and it was about 1,700 predominantly white women. And when they saw that video, and I talked about being a mother of 4 daughters, and how important that was for me to know that something had been created where I could see them by looking at that commercial, and it resonated with each of those women because they know what it feels like to either be excluded or to feel unseen. So amplifying the stories of who we are and that the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
So what did that video do for you?
Girl, I told you got me up here crying and stuff. But listen, but I remember when the commercial came out because people could not stop talking about it. But again, it is so important. This is, why you and I, why we're like, as you said, partners in progress, is because that story wouldn't have been as moving done by someone else.
Exactly.
But because Melina is the one who, worked with Beyonce on her visual album, and because she did Queen and Slim, she knows us.
Yes.
And so from the braiding of the hair to the everything felt like authentic, because it was.
Yeah.
And that's why it is so important, whether you're creating advertising or creating content, television and film, it's not just the representation on the screen.
Yeah.
It's who is in the decision-making seat behind the scene.
Yes.
Who gets to tell their story, and do they get to tell it their way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also just want you all to know, and I'll close with this as we get ready to invite our other guests up, is that was her moment.
Yeah.
And everyone around her rallied to make sure she had her moment. And this is our moment.
Yeah.
Right? This is our moment. And so how do we continue to propel each other forward
Yeah.
and ensuring that we each have our moment?
Yeah.
So with that, what I'd like to do is to invite Kaval and Gary to join us on stage. Thank you
Give
all
it up.
for
Give it up for the men.
for the men.
Give it up for the men. They said y'all didn't clap loud enough for them. Come on. Come on. Help us bring them up. Come on. Bring them up. Bring them up. I'm going to have to get my DJ Khaled. Bring them out. Bring them out. Come on.
Yes.
Hi, guys.
Did they give you mics? Okay. Are we sharing mics?
There you
Okay.
go.
There we go.
How's it going?
It's
Good.
going good.
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully you got a chance to see Latasha and I in action. We'd like to go ahead and, as Adrian said yesterday, if you can hear the sound of my voice, say yes.
Yes.
Okay. We just got our podcast deal, just so you all know.
That was our shooting our shot.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for joining us today for what is a very important conversation. And I'd love for you to not only share your titles, but what do you feel like you get paid to do? Start with you. Okay.
Go ahead, sir. Well, very excited to be here. Thank you guys for having us. It's always a good opportunity to have those conversations, comfortable, uncomfortable conversations. You know, we enjoy them because that's how we grow. My name is Gary Kwashi. I'm the founder and CEO of Pod Digital Media. Pod Digital Media, we are the first and the largest multicultural podcast network in the country. We started about 5 years ago out of the need to really support and amplify diverse voices. Black and brown podcasters that were creating content, we really wanted to support them in a meaningful way. So when you ask me what do I get paid to do, we really enjoy the work because what we're doing is we're helping content creators that wouldn't have access to large advertisers. We're helping them monetize their content.
Wow.
We amplify their voices, not just saying, hey, we support you, we support you. The revolution must be financed, and what we do, we actually go out there and we create brand partnerships on their behalf.
Yeah.
There's the power in aggregating all of our content, all of those black and brown content creators under one roof. It allows us now to have the reach and scale to go to Procter & Gamble's, the Amazons of the world, the McDonald's, the American Expresses, the Ford, Lexus, Toyotas. Those are some of our clients. It allows us to actually go to those brands and to say, hey, look, there's the power of the community of those black and brown podcasters, and this is how you should support them.
Yeah.
Can y'all give it up for that?
Yes. All right.
Kavel Khan, I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Group Black. What I get paid to do is in my title, it's growth. And it's growth for a few different sort of stakeholders. First and foremost, driving and delivering growth for brands, right? How do we help brands, both from an education and a capability perspective, understand the massive unlock that exists when it comes to spending with black-owned media companies, because those companies are tapped into culture, which creates community, and those communities drive far more powerful influence than any brand campaign can ever do, right? And so we are here to drive growth by building the ecosystem that allows brands to do that in a more effective way. We also drive growth for our collective partners, which Pod Digital is one of our collective members. And so, we know that the challenges that exist because companies like Gary's have been underinvested in and have not had the same access to capital that many other folks have had the opportunity to. And so what does that mean? It means that they're not able to build the type of advertising sales teams that you would see at Amazon or some of the bigger players, right? You need a brand strategy team, you need a sales team, you need teams that are focused on research, innovation. All these teams you really need to surround and meet the expectations of brands that are spending their marketing dollars. And so our job is to build that team out and allow our partners, our collective members, to be on the journey with us where we can represent them. And then also, just for growth for agency partners, right? Like agencies are looking for innovation. They're looking for new ways to drive value based on the briefs they're getting from the brands. And we're developing that. Just here at Cannes, we're announcing, one, how do we help justify the spending? We announced a big partnership and a study with Nielsen that shows that black creators drive 10x media value, right? We're developing programs where we know there's open space. If you look at black women and black women wellness, it's so underserved right now. We're partnering Everyday Health, but we're leveraging black creators and black doctors to drive a focused attention to such a huge need so that brands can understand this is how you authentically show up for black women who are the chief wellness officers in our families and have such an amazing impact on the decision making that happens. So it really is all about growth in all those areas, and that's what we focus on.
Just out of curiosity, how did you get into this as a career?
What part of this?
Like, everything you said was so intentional, right? Like,
Okay.
I mean, but there's like a passion. And is it passion for the black community, passion for growth for the black community?
I think it's all of the above. I've been incredibly fortunate and humbled by the career I've been able to have in advertising. Look, the reality is, and I don't think it's because I'm special. I honestly just because I work hard like everyone else, but I got a little lucky in some places. I've had an amazing career. I started my career out at Microsoft. I was there for 8 years. And so I got to learn and see what best in class looks like. I then transitioned my career to Twitter when Twitter was amazing, not the Twitter now under Elon. I got nothing to do with that. I left a long time ago. But I had the opportunity to see what best in class looks like in the advertising industry. I got an opportunity to see how agencies really work with brands when they have a bias to yes versus a bias to no. You know, when it comes to sort of what we call general market, there's a bias to yes. You hear things like, oh, of course we're going to work with you. We see that, you know, our kids are on your platform and we see that there's growth there, so we're going to reach the audience. A bias to no, which is what you hear in diverse-owned media, is like, well, what's your, do you have a case study that shows us that this is effective?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't need a case study when I was at Twitter. All I had to show you was the growth that was happening, and you invested in the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so these are the different things that I've had the opportunity to see. And so being at Group Black allows me to take that sort of knowledge set that I have and work with an incredible team who is really doing the work to help brands connect with the opportunity that exists here and just have a conversation at a different level. So that's really my motivation around doing it.
Awesome.
Yeah, when you were talking about that bias to yes and bias to no, like that struck a chord in me because, or struck a nerve rather, because we see that a lot when we're talking about first-time film directors, right? Taking a risk. And I hate when we use that term because we'll put somebody over a huge franchise that has no experience and like we believe in their vision. It was a compelling vision. But we're gonna take a risk on this first time. And I'm like, it's not a risk. So, Neka Honora, who directed Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls, first time directing a series like that, Emmy award-winning show and director as a result of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan had never directed a movie before he did Creed 3, largest domestic box office for a sports movie, and over 200 million globally. I mean, so it's not a risk. It's depending on who's asking. Yeah.
It's facts.
I love it. So, when I think about, and I haven't shared this with too many people, but through preparing for this particular panel, this conversation actually made me reflect on my father owned a radio station and a newspaper. And whether it was the political season or the holidays, etc., I would watch my father literally undercut himself or like lower his prices just to get a piece of the pie, right? And so through this whole preparation, I'm like, wow, so this is what Daddy had to go through. And ultimately, the businesses weren't sustainable. They were sustainable as long as he was able to keep his relationships going. But it's so important to have that level of advocacy within corporations. And so when I think about Amazon, we are on a journey, right? We're on a journey. And like many companies, we've seen an increase in investment in whether it's the Black community, diverse communities, et cetera. And so we have businesses like the Black Business Accelerator where millions of dollars were invested to ensure that Black-owned businesses were not just able to start a business, but the education that's needed, the marketing to support them so that they are able to be successful. When you, Cavell, think about Black Business Accelerator and then the Amazon Catalytic Capital and some of our other founders' programs, what do you think the broader impact is to the ecosystem?
Yeah, so, you know, when I think about those programs, first of all, they're amazing. $150 million is an incredible sum that's being dedicated by Amazon. And it's not just the dollars being spent, but it is the mentorship that's being driven. But I think it's a great start. And I think there's a lot more to be done there. Yeah. Just to give you a comparison, one of our founders, Richie Lou Dennis, has his own fund, and it's a $100 million fund. And Rich is rich, but Rich don't have Amazon money. And so there is a lot more to be done, but I think what's important is not just doing the fund and saying, okay, we're helping a few. It is how do you highlight the wins coming out of that? How do you make it so that it could be replicated by other organizations the size of Amazon to see that this is not just charity, this is a growth strategy. Because what are you really doing? You're saying, okay, how do I capture products and make sure that the first place of distribution for them is Amazon? And so we're going to invest in them early, help them scale and grow, and they're going to bring with them audience that's going to benefit us. It is the long-term thinking that is required in this industry that you don't see happening on the media side. Right? Amazon will invest in that, and there's a clear business strategy, but you don't see that type of investment on the media side. And so some of the things that I think needs to continue to happen, especially a company with the size and scale and power of Amazon is not just a retailer, it's also a marketer. So how do you sort of take that fund and apply it in the marketing space to ensure that companies like Gary's are being not just funded, but supported by your CMO who's spending billions of dollars, right? How are we ensuring that that's driving it? How do you support those brands after they've developed? It's not just about helping them start up or get the product, to market. It is how are you supporting them in going out and hiring creative agencies and production companies that can reflect the true value of their brand and working with folks that understand that. So it's an entire ecosystem play. It's not just the investment, so to speak, is only the first part. You really have to follow it all the way through, and that's why we want to see more and more happening. But as I said, it is an amazing start to commit $150 million. It's an incredible incentive there.
Gary, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I support, me and Cavell do, basically at this point, we do these panels all the time, so I'm fully aligned there. I think what happened is, specifically in podcasting and audio and content creation, is that, when brands actually go ahead and hire, for example, a Black-owned company like myself, now that has access to hundreds and hundreds of Black content creators, as they're creating the content, they're actually going out to hire a Black producer. They're going out to hire a Black editor. Right, so then the ecosystem how it trickles down. It doesn't start and end with me. It just keeps going in the community because then now more content creators are able to leverage, other creatives in order to support their vision. So I think it's extremely important. If you're trying to reach the community, we love to see us in us. Right, we can't be what we can't see. So that being said, it's very important that. As companies do see value in the audience because they know we have a $1.9 trillion buying power, if we're going to buy your product, but also invest in the community of those that's actually creating content to reach those audiences authentically.
And we sniff it out when we're not there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we know. We know when there wasn't a Black writer in the room when we see that character on the screen. We know when somebody didn't get that makeup shade or that lighting right because somebody looked ashy on camera. We know. It shows up, right? And so I think to your point around the ecosystem, that was, when after the murder of George Floyd, everybody was hashtagging, great, I think you should. They were black boxing, I don't know what that means, but great, you should. People wanted to go out and paint kindergarten classrooms. I was like, that's not what we're doing.
No.
Right.
And that was our opportunity. Those of us who do this work understood we had a short window.
Right.
A short window of guilt, essentially.
Right.
Where we needed to go in and change policies, systems, and structures, financial structures. Change structures in order to disrupt the stuff that we were seeing. So for us, it was on the TV side, and the film side, on the Amazon Studio side, it was our inclusion policy to say, listen, if you're gonna have Amazon on your title, then this is our expectation. Because I was getting writers from actors that said, we strive to be better. I don't know how to measure strive. So if we don't put a stake in the ground and say, this is what we think better looks like, and by the way, it's not because we get it right all the time,
Right.
and it's not because we haven't messed up, because we do. We still do, right? But it was like, we got to put a stake in the ground, at least say what good could look like and how we should be thinking about this work. And it's not just the actors, because at the end of the day, they are union workers. Right? They don't have the decision, they don't have the power and the agency all the time to make the decisions. And it's not just, it's important to hire the right writers, creators, directors, but it's even the nuance. As you were talking about on the producers on the podcast, it's when you have a show about all black women, then you should have a black woman medical professional on there.
Right.
If you got a show about people dealing with trauma, then you need a trauma specialist on there. And they need to be somebody culturally competent to help the folks through that kind of stuff. And so it's taking it to that nuanced level.
No, for sure. What I want to add to what you're saying is that for us, when post George Floyd and when the companies were doing hashtags and they were posting black boxes on Instagram, I immediately penned a letter which was published in Ad Age that stated, look, this is a moment where we don't need your black boxes, we don't need to paint the streets. This is how you should support black voices.
Yeah.
And we identified the steps that they needed to take. And one of them was, if you're a tech company, ensuring that the content discovery for those black creators can be found, right? Because if you go on Apple, if you go on Spotify, if you don't know like a specific podcast that you're looking for, you're not going to find those black content creators unless it's Black History Month.
Right.
Why must it take Black History Month for that to happen, right? So we challenge the tech platforms. And then the advertisers were, okay, you want to advertise with us during Pride Month, during Hispanic Heritage Month, during HBCU Homecomings and Black History Month. What happens for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
We know we have to do spots and dots are done. So we're looking for that consistency, that evergreen strategy that you're giving to all the larger publications and platforms. Why is that not being employed the same way to the black media and the black creators? That is helping you push your brand, that is making you culturally relevant, that is ensuring that you're growing your profit margins.
Yeah. And you got to do that externally and internally.
No, 100%.
But how do you do that, though? If you're someone that's inside, and I know we're deviating a bit, hopefully there's a time check somewhere. But if you are, whether it's one of the few, right, in the organizations, and you need to actually call out, hey, don't just call on us when it's HBCU homecoming time, right, or Black History Month, etc. What does that look like? What did that look like at Twitter or Microsoft when you're in those rooms and maybe you were the only or one of two, like many of us?
The only.
The only, see? The courage that comes to be able to call bullshit, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah, it's funny because you just do it. And I think what happens is, and I understand it, but there comes a point where we have to believe in our own capabilities, and we are not begging for a job. We bring value.
That's right.
And we bring growth. And so our voice and what we speak about is intentionally about how do I help the company I work for to grow. And if you're sitting there watching a company make mistakes and you're not speaking up, then you're actually doing a disservice to your company. And I know it comes with career risk, and you feel like, oh, your next review, someone's gonna burn you. Then if your company's gonna burn you because you spoke out about a misstep that they're making, you don't need to be at that company.
Right.
And we have to have more conviction, especially in your early years, I give you a pass, but especially when you are senior and you've been in an organization for a long time, like, you could go get another job at somewhere else.
Exactly.
Let's be clear. You are talented, you are capable, you know your shit, talk your talk. You have to get out there and you have to speak out. So I'll give an example of me because you asked me what I did at Twitter. I was the first black sales leader at Twitter. When I became the first before that, I was the first black salesperson and the only black salesperson. Then I moved into becoming the first and only black sales leader. Within less than a year, of me being that sales leader, I had the most diverse sales team at Twitter. But yet, all the time before that, oh, we have a pipeline problem, we have this. Well, how did Cavell go and within 1 year have a completely diverse team? And I'm not talking about a black team, I'm talking about a diverse sales team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that sales team went on to drive some of the biggest growth that we had within our vertical. And some of those sales folks went on to become leaders, and they're now, leading teams at Walmart and Pinterest and a number of other places. And it became from me being intentional about saying, you're bullshitting. There are people who are capable, they're not being given an opportunity, and I use the little power I had at the time, and as I continue to grow in my career, I use the large power I have to speak, to take action, because if I don't do it, who is? And I can't be protecting my job and saying, well, okay, I got a job, I made it. That doesn't mean shit. If I'm the last black CRO of a tech company, what did I do? I did nothing. I did nothing more than get myself a job. And that's not my purpose and what I'm here to do. So what it looks like is speaking out and challenging and saying, okay, go ahead and fire me. If that's what it means. You're not going to say that, but like if that's what they choose to do, one, you should realize they weren't really there for you anyway. It was an unequal sort of relationship that you had there, and be confident in your capability at that level to go out and be passionate and true to who you are and find an organization that is looking for that, because it's going to help them grow. So it's a simple answer to me, but I know that a lot of people feel like they got to protect their job and like, oh, I'm the black CMO, so I'm not going to support black-owned businesses because it's going to look like nepotism. Do you see what these other people are doing out here? Sorry?
Oh, yeah. We see it. Gary, you want to go? And then Latasha, you want to close us out on this question?
Oh, no. Again, it's right on with, I think now my mindset's a bit different because I'm an entrepreneur and I actually have employees. So clearly when they speak out, I make sure that I hear them out because that's actually how we grow as a company. But a line there that creating the space and to actually allow your employees to speak out, you can only grow from there.
I think for me, I used to think being the only and the lonely, the loneliest in a room was a detriment. But actually, I've learned to make it a superpower. Because if I'm the only one in the room with this lived experience, when I give you this perspective, then what lived experience are you using to challenge me?
Right.
You can't. But I also understand, everybody is not going to be as bold or comfortable. You should be, because you ain't got nothing to lose. As you said, you can go get another job anywhere. And I think we let unemployment be the boogeyman in the room. And I understand why, but we have to turn the light on the boogeyman and dispel that, because you can go get another job, your family ain't gonna stop loving you, your friends ain't gonna stop calling you, you ain't gonna be any less dope or brilliant, right?
And maybe Auntie gotta wait until you can send some money next month.
Exactly.
Right?
Auntie, hold on a month. But if you're not comfortable in that way, there's another way. Ask a question. Right? And so for me, what I love is data, because in tech companies, they love data. So I'm like, okay, we do Thursday night football. All right. So tell me, and I'm a mom of a 4-year receiver who played for Howard HU. Ain't no you knows, huh? Okay. So I'm like, the quarterback has a choice. He can throw the ball to the receiver on the line of scrimmage. He's not going to get much yak. Or he can throw the ball down the field to the route the receiver's running, which is usually closer to the end zone, right? And if I think about our customers, 18 to 24-year-old people of color consume 8 hours and 11 minutes of streaming content every single day. You could throw the ball on the line of scrimmage to the 40, 50-year-old, right, who is watching nightly news and not much else. Or you can throw the ball down the field to where your customers are going, because they're looking for who is speaking to me, who is bringing the stories that I'm interested in, and who is giving it to me in an authentic way, and they're sniffing out when it's not. You have to respect your customers enough to not just give them content that looks like them, but give them content that they know was created for them by them.
For them by them. Yeah, absolutely. So Gary, apparently you have some firsthand experience with Amazon. I'd love for you to share your experience with Amazon as a partner.
No, for sure. We've been working with Amazon over the last 2 years consistently, which is extremely important, right? And the brand we've been working with is Audible. So every time there's been new releases that come out, we're certainly one of the platforms that they leverage in order to sort of bring a level of awareness to the release, whether it's Kevin Hart or any other types of campaigns, content that's being released on the Audible platform.
Yeah.
So for us, it's, we certainly appreciate the partnership. It's just the fact that it's consistency. It's consistent, right? Just the same way I talked about earlier about the evergreen approach of always being present. We can always rely on knowing that we will actually be running 8 to 10, 12 to 15 campaigns with Audible, so that's great. But at the same time, we also know there's more opportunities because we haven't worked with any of the other brands from Prime to, you guys have Thursday Night Football, there's Freebie. So again, we're very excited that we're thankful that we have that opportunity to work with Audible, but at the same time, we're also looking forward to doing a lot more with you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think something that you just said that really caught me and takes it beyond performative is you said consistently
For sure.
for 2 years.
For sure.
Because, oftentimes we see companies will say, we'll give you $10 million right up front, right? And next thing you know, once that money is gone, there's nothing else that happens. There's no more investing. There's no more support.
Right.
And so please don't hesitate to reach out if anything stops after this 2 years.
I'll take you on that offer, and it's being recorded too, so hey.
So now let's get into a bit of, talking about some examples of companies that seem to get marketing, branding, right, inclusive marketing specifically. They seem to get it right. And I know everyone has an example. And so I'd love to start with you, Gary, on an example of where because we just saw the show must go on video, and we
Right.
saw the reaction.
Right.
And so I'd love to hear an example where you feel like.
I mean, for me, it's twofold, right? I think is the company that comes to mind, who happens to be our biggest client is McDonald's, right? So McDonald's, we have a multi-million-dollar deal with McDonald's. So what that really does is that it allows us to be much more strategic versus transactional.
Yeah.
Because now we know we have insights as to what's happening in July and January. So now it allows us to actually plan accordingly and to actually make sure that we're getting the right content creators that's going to help them amplify the campaign that they have in July, but we start that process in January. Versus other companies that actually, we'll get the campaign is in July, but we're getting that information in June, and then now it's more reactive versus being very strategic. So to us, they're certainly doing it right as far as making sure that they're engaging media companies the right way, especially black-owned media entities the right way, simply because it shows the level of commitment is there. So for us, they're doing it the right way. But in addition to that is that now that they're actually doing a lot more work, not only with myself, but with more black-owned media entities, those black-owned media entities now are able to also hire black talent, black producers, black creators, black editors. So to us, it reflects in the success that they've been seeing in the AA community. Yeah. So to us, that's certainly not being biased because they're our largest advertiser, but it's the fact that the level of commitment is there, and it exudes in everything that they're doing and all the campaigns that they actually go out with.
McDonald's I grew up thinking about I want a Happy Meal. I don't even eat hamburgers, but I wanted a Happy Meal, right? So their marketing is usually top tier.
I grew up wanting to be Calvin. See, some of y'all, y'all old enough to remember Calvin.
He's back.
Cavell?
One of the companies that I admire what they're doing and the direction they've been taking is P&G. P&G, the main reason why is because I'm in these conversations, almost on a daily basis, and sometimes it's not said, but you detect that they look at investing in black-owned media, they look at the work that needs to happen to reach this audience as charity. Like they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I'm like, that's good. I'm not taking anything away from that. But this is about the money and growth. Yeah. And the way P&G has approached the space is to say, look, we're talking about household and audience penetration.
That's right.
And so they need to move from, and they've said this publicly, so I don't think I'm sharing anything I shouldn't, they need to move from the sort of 70s and 80% penetration to 90 to 100% penetration because everyone brushes their teeth, I hope, everyone takes a shower, everyone washes their clothes, right? Like there is no audience that they shouldn't be trying to grow with. And took a step back and said, okay, why do we connect with some audience and we have deep penetration and others we don't? And they said, well, part of it has to do with content. And they are the OGs of this.
Yeah.
Soap operas, when they created them, and the name is in it, soap operas, because they wanted to sell more Tide soap, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like women were not watching television. They were. But they used soap operas as a way to bring together an audience around content that they knew that resonated. And fast forward to where we are today, it's the same strategy that P&G is using.
Yeah.
They're starting with investing in content creation that connects, that resonates, and then they're saying it's not just making the content and putting it anywhere, they're being intentional about the platforms and the companies that they're spending and distributing that content on, because it's not just the content, the medium is the message also. And so taking the approach where it is a growth strategy and investing in content and investing in the companies and the media platforms where they want that content to resonate, I think that is the formula. It's not just about a winning campaign. It is a formula that more brands should be applying. Everything else that P&G does, everyone else follows. It's funny that with this one, you're not seeing the fast follow happening. And so it's sort of like, well, why aren't you doing this? When P&G said go programmatic, you went programmatic. When P&G said, hey, we need to look at brand safety, you looked at brand safety. The industry should also follow P&G's lead. And they're not the only one. There's just one example that I'm being clear about that's doing this work. So I really, look at them as a sort of canary in the coal mine and leading the charge. But they'll tell you they're seeing the results, right? It's not just like, okay, we're doing this. There's results that's coming out of it. I'm an example of result. You asked the question before when you were up here about, have you ever seen yourself reflected in an ad? My answer to that had been no for years, until in 2019, P&G rolled out a piece of work called The Look. And it showed a black man going through life and what's the nice term we call it? The unconscious bias that he was facing.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was being judged every day, and he turned out to be a judge. Very clever, creative work there. But it was the first time I saw my lived experience showing up in a piece of work from a brand.
Yeah.
And I actually have a video on my phone, and when I went to P&G, I showed it to them. You look at my house right now, everything is converted to P&G. Everything is converted. My toothpaste, everything. So, again, it's about resonance and community and speaking authentically to someone that's going to drive a purchase, not just telling me I need to buy Tide or I need to buy, all the other products.
Yeah.
And so brands need to understand investing in communities that create culture, and that culture is creating content that resonates and influence. That's the strategy that's going to lead to long-term growth.
I love it.
Yeah.
But the power of what you just said of, because you saw yourself in that campaign and then you converted everything, right, in your home. So we are at time. I want to thank each of you all.
Before you wrap up, can I just piggyback? Because it was so good.
That was so powerful.
Because like you said, we have to use those products anyway.
Yes.
We're going to watch TV and films anyway. We're going to buy a car anyway, right? And so if you are speaking directly to us, then you can get those dollars.
Yeah.
And since we're going to be the majority by 2025, I would think you would want those dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think.
You
Yeah.
would think. Well, thank you all so much for joining us and being able to share your genius with this audience. Thank you, everyone.
For sure. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Carelessly, we should kill the space between you and me. Let's stop time. Can't you see that we're meant to be